The First Opium War, 1839 to 1842. Part 1. Tensions Rising. The roots of the Opium War, or the First China War, began in a trade dispute between the British and the Chinese Qing Dynasty. By the beginning of the 19th century, the trade in Chinese goods such as tea, silks, and porcelain was extremely lucrative for British merchants. The problem was that the Chinese would not buy British products in return. They would only sell their goods in exchange for silver, and as a result, large amounts of silver were leaving Britain. At this moment in time, the British Empire was on the rise, conquering every corner of the world. Whether it was to benefit the economy or take new territory, Asia was no exception, especially China. In order to stop this, the Brits devised a plan which involved the East India Company and other British merchants smuggling Indian opium into China illegally. By 1839, opium sales to China paid for the entire tea trade. Tea was one of the largest consumer goods exported to Britain, and the Brits didn't plan on losing it anytime soon. On the other hand, China, despite being on the decline, would not tolerate these illegal imports and wanted to stop the trade. Although opium was valued as a medicine that could ease pain, assist sleep, and reduce stress, by 1840 there were millions of addicts in the country. Illegal opium imports were also eroding what had once been a favorable balance of trade. The British believed the Chinese had always been uncooperative, having allowed only one port, Canton, to be used by Western merchants since the 18th century. There were many British politicians and merchants who viewed the dispute as an ideal opportunity to open up China. Chinese efforts to end the trade were initially successful. In May 1839, they forced the British Chief Superintendent of Trade in China, Charles Elliot, to hand over the stocks of opium at Canton for destruction. This insulted the British, which led to retaliation and ultimately conflict. Part 2. War. November 1839. Making use of their superior navy, Britain started the skirmish at sea, destroying 29 Chinese vessels via HMS Volage and Hyacinth. The following year, on 21 June, Commodore Sir Gordon Bremer took a naval force from the Portuguese territory of Macau to Chusan. Then, on 5 July, Britain bombarded the port of Tinghai, which was already conquered by British troops. Meanwhile, the Chinese emperor began negotiations, but after hearing Lord Palmerston's demands, he swiftly refused, and on 7 January 1841, the British captured the bogue forts of Chuenpi and Taikokto that guarded the mouth of the Pearl River. These victories were achieved by Major J.L. Pratt of the 26th Cameronian Regiment and suffered only 38 casualties. The Chinese once again sued for peace, and this time it came from Admiral Quan Ti. He asked for a truce and, faced with overwhelming British strength, signed an agreement on 18 January 1841, by which Hong Kong became a British territory. This was a pivotal moment for Britain as it established a clear foothold when it came to dealing with China economically or militarily. Despite agreeing on the transfer of ownership regarding Hong Kong, Britain continued to make demands, those of which the Chinese did not want to meet. The British therefore advanced up the Pearl River with a reinforced military contingent under Lieutenant General Sir Hugh Gough, and on the 27th of May 1841, Canton was captured. They then withdrew on the understanding that the Chinese would pay reparations of 60,000 British pounds. Then the British moved north again and captured Amoy on 26th to the 27th of August 1841 and repossessed Chusan, which was previously returned to the Chinese on 1st of October. Qinghai was taken on 10 October at the cost of 3 British dead and 16 wounded. Ningpo was captured unopposed on 13 October before operations were suspended for the winter. Negotiations again proved fruitless, and on 10 March 1842, the Chinese counterattacked, but were easily repelled by the superior training and equipment that the British Army had. Part 3. Checkmate, 1842. The British continued moving north, capturing Chapu on 18 May 1842 in an operation that witnessed brave Chinese resistance. Many Chinese only surrendered after their defenses had been breached and their enclosures set on fire by rockets. During the assault, 9 British soldiers and sailors were killed and 55 wounded. One of the dead was Lieutenant Colonel Nicholas Tomlinson, commander of the 18th Royal Irish Regiment. The most notable capture came on 19 June 1842, when Shanghai was comfortably taken, and with the conflict coming to an end, military commander Hai Lin, who was stationed at the city, decided to order his own men to burn down his home. British casualties were again modest, totaling 34 dead and 107 wounded. Faced with the possibility of a British assault on Nanking, the Chinese now sued for peace. The war ended on 17 August 1842 with the Treaty of Nanking enabling the British to carry on their mercantile transactions with whatever persons they please. The treaty committed the Chinese to free trade, including the trade in opium. Hong Kong was ceded to Britain, and the treaty ports of Guangzhou, Amoy, Foochow, Shanghai, and Ningbo were open to all traders. The Chinese also paid reparations. The ease with which the British had defeated the Chinese armies seriously affected the Qing Dynasty's prestige. This contributed to the Taiping Rebellion, 1850 to 1864. For the victors, the Opium War paved the way for the opening of the Chinese market. After another dominant victory for the British Empire across the seas, it seemed as if no one could challenge the might of Britannia. But with many wars being waged across the empire, only time could tell. Thank you for watching this Everything History video. We hoped you enjoyed it, or at least learned a thing or two. What do you think of the First Opium War? Would you like to see us cover the Second Opium War? Let us know down in the comments.